How are these people raised? How do you get to this state of mind?
Point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Quick point of privilege once again. Hi, James Jackson, Sacramento DSA, he, him. I have already asked people to be mindful of the chatter of their comrades who are sensitive to sensory overload, and that goes double for the heckling and the hissing. It is also triggering to my anxiety.
How do you come to believe that you're the member of some elite priesthood, an elite priest, priestess or priestzer of wokedom, servicing the needs of the SJW warrior god to purify this earth of the sins of racism and sexism and all of the isms.
A professor just wrote to me recently. He said he got frustrated while trying to explain something. He said, shoot me now. And a student was offended by this because are you making fun of people committing suicide? And okay, had she come to him and said, professor, I know you didn't mean anything, but that was kind of insensitive. Okay, that would have been great. Like, that's the way to handle it. But for this generation, raised with call-out culture and social media, you almost never hear of a student coming to someone else in private because you don't get credit for that.
Yeah.
So you only get credit when you call them out publicly. And so that's why we're all walking on eggshells, because most of our students are great. Most of them are fine. But if I have a class of 300 students, a lecture class, I know that some of them subscribe to this new call-out culture, safetyism, morality. And so if I say one thing, it's not a reasonable person standard, it's a most sensitive person standard. I have to teach to the most sensitive person in the class.
It's also that person has the opportunity to score, right? They throw up that virtue flag, like I've got one on the board here. Look what I did. I nailed the professor on saying, shoot me now. And now I'm a hero. And I've made this a safer space for everybody else.
That's right. And so that's really what is messing us up at so many levels of society.
How'd you get there? How do you come to have the mind-numbing arrogance, A, to believe that you are pure, that you have passed every single possible purity test of the woke orthodoxy, and then that you are entitled, that it's your job to go and tell the rest of the world how to live? How'd you get there? How do you become a member of the orthodoxy? I'd love to know where they get their certainty from. I'm not even that certain about what I'm doing this afternoon. I'm certainly not that certain about how everybody in the membership of humanity as a whole should live, think, speak, and act to a nicety. These people are even trying to control, they're not just trying to control what we say, they want to control our feelings and our thoughts. They want to control who we're attracted to. I mean, these are ambitions beyond the Nazis and beyond the Stalinists, my friends. They never had such delusions of grandeur that they could purify people's lusts and sexual desire and seek to control them. This is lunacy. If this isn't a mass psychosis, then mass psychosis is not a meaningful concept. I mean, if this doesn't tick every damn box, a mass psychosis that is spreading with this toxic ideology like a cult. It's in-group and out-group. And if you demonstrate one of their appointed sins of being in the out-group, there is no road to redemption. My God, even the Spanish Inquisition, after you'd been tortured for a few days, would let you renounce your naughty ways and ask for forgiveness. You might not be executed, but you'd at least be strangled before you were burned. With these people, there's no redemption. These people are suffering from some sort of God complex, superiority complex, savior complex, a massive obsessive psychopathic degree of a desire to control others, blended with a narcissistic entitlement that, quite frankly, I'm impressed by, because it's a staggering tower of just self-adoration. Isn't it all about me? Look at how virtuous I am. Oh, good.
We have quiet rooms that are available. There's a range of options of these, right? Please don't go into that space with anything that's like an aggressive scent, for instance, right? Because we don't want to put people in stressful situations that they don't consent to, right?
Call-out culture is not quite that bad, but it's the same logic, okay? So if you have a group of teenagers or college students who are all struggling for prestige, as we all are, and if you get a subculture in which the way you get prestige is by calling someone out, showing that they're racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, whatever it is, if you can catch them, you get the points. What you're doing here is you're imposing an external cost on others. And that's what makes you so insufferable, because you are playing your game, but I'm paying the cost of your game.
When I listen to some of these people speaking and they're saying, words are violence. Well, okay, so you're not familiar with real violence then. Ideas are violent. No, violence is violence. Ideas can make you uncomfortable, but you feeling uncomfortable is not the same thing as being punched in the face. And if you've come to a point where you think it is, then I would say, hey, maybe it's time to see a cognitive behavioral therapist to work on your resilience, your internal boundaries, and the fact that you are clearly very emotionally dysregulated and boundary free to the point where you're so hypersensitive that you cease to function as an adult in the world. That's a you problem. That's not our problem. That's not everybody else's problem. That's on you. You need to fix that as a responsible adult.
Because most people hate it. So even the people who do it recognize that they're always on eggshells. They can be next. There's the tendency of people in this culture to, as we say, they eat their own. They eventually turn on each other. And the mental health costs of it, there are a number of essays that have been written by people who sort of left that. And it sounds miserable to be inside it. You're always, there's no humor. There's no fun. It's always, hyper serious, angry.
The question I would ask is the following. What kind of a world do we want to create? And what kind of children do we want to raise into young adults? Do we want a world where people think that their subjective experience is more important than objective facts? Do we want a world in which people think that they have the right to spy on, to denounce and criminalize other people's behavior because that's their job and that's the most important thing to do in life, is to tear other people down, call them out, find them in some mistake and win points in the game by going, look at what they did, let's all condemn them? How would you feel if that was your child acting that way? I'd be appalled. I'm very, very, very disappointed. I'm very sad. I would feel like I had failed in my duty to them, to raise them up to be strong and resilient, sovereign, to value agency in themselves and other people, to have boundaries and to respect other people's boundaries, to love liberty and freedom, to have the freedom and to understand what it takes to protect that freedom for themselves means protecting other people's freedoms as well. Not silencing people, not cancelling people. And I would say to them, if you disagree with somebody or you think somebody's acting in a way that's unjust, absolutely, you should and can do something about that. But the best way to deal at a word level with what somebody said, if you disagree with it, is not to scream and cry and appeal to a higher authority to use force to silence them. I would say the thing to do is to present a better argument. Decimate their argument with objectivity, with facts, with logic. Pull it apart. The argument, not the person. Be gracious, be charitable. Assume that the person is coming from good intent unless they show you otherwise. Assume that the other person has value intrinsic to them, but it's the argument and their stance that you want to attack and not them, and to draw a boundary between the two. And to understand that all progress up until this point has required an adherence and a submission to the facts and to objectivity, integrated with our subjective experience and our feelings. Nobody's saying we should ignore them. I spent most of my professional life telling people to become more emotionally literate, but I've never said I've never said, nor would I because it would be cruel, hey folks, you've got some mental health issues, you're emotionally dysregulated, why don't you become more emotionally literate? And then whatever emotions come up for you, insist that your individual emotion is what everybody in your world and your environment should conform to so that you don't feel bad ever again. I wouldn't say that because it would be cruel and it would be wrong, and the consequences of it would be disastrous. This ideology is regressive. It's anti-science, it's ignorant of history, it's ignorant of culture, it's ignorant of biology, and it loathes the idea of being rational and doing research. Yes, even research is considered now a racist social construct created by white supremacists to oppress people during campaigns of colonizing other countries. I'm not making that up. That's a thing. I think from here, with kindness and with boundaries in equal measure, yin and yang, we can say, okay, enough of that now. Let's move forward using critical thinking first, integrating and accepting our emotions, but knowing they're not the thing that make the world goes round. Accepting that sometimes we can alter and adapt the environment to suit our needs, but generally speaking, it's our responsibility as individuals to change, mature, and grow in accordance with the needs of the environment. That's how we've gotten to where we've gotten to. We have gone, culturally speaking, generally speaking, from surviving to thriving. There have been terrible, terrible mistakes made along the way. Great crimes have been committed. Nobody's denying that. But we have an awful lot to be proud of as well. And we should be putting that to the fore, sometimes too. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Cheers.